After a disappointing weekend on the road in Bloomington, the Ball State football team returns home to the Shoe to wrap up non-conference play against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Sports Link Gameday starts now on Facebook Live.
We represent Ball State University. I know it's the start of something special, man. Fast, physical, relentless. Pursue our goal for 4 quarters. Baby, I'm Bruce. 1, 2, 3.
Just finished up class, got down with practice number 2 today. A lot more, into Western Kentucky. Moving on from what IU did to us and, remaining positive for that. Just looking forward to seeing my family this weekend and been texting them all day. Pretty good to, be able to come back home and, play against a home crowd and whatnot and, have all your family there. I've been getting texts all day from them. The list has just been growing. So far I got 24 people coming to the game. And I'm pretty sure within the next few days, it's going to be more coming, or more staying with me at home. So some of my family members coming to my game for the first time and whatnot. So I'm kind of happy, just to let them see me play, see what I can do. They've been hearing about it, social media, from my mom, so for some of the people that have been to my game. So it's pretty great to, showcase my talent to them. A lot of them have never been to a game, so really excited about that, seeing some of them for the first time and, getting them to see what I'm all about, They've heard about it, so it's time for me to show them.
A chilly day in Muncie, Indiana. Weather set at 62 degrees and wind coming in at 10 miles per hour for game day here from Schumann Stadium. Hello everyone, welcome inside Sports Link Gameday alongside Alex Thomas and Jack Kizer. I'm Jarin Matheny. Obviously family, something very important for Malik Dunner and the rest of the players of Ball State as well as for us on set, but more importantly, getting a win today for the Cardinals. They start out 1-2 on the year before they come back to Muncie. So Alex, what did you see last week that Ball State has to improve upon tonight?
Last week seemed kind of like a fluke. Ball State just didn't look organized, and it really looked like a completely different team from the week before in South Bend. They were sloppy and just really got out of their game plan early, and then the Ja'Shun Harris punt return really sucked the energy out of the Cardinals, and that was kind of the turning point. From that point on, it was all Hoosiers for the rest of the day. Ball State has to be able to put that behind them and move forward.
It was certainly a tough loss last week at IU. It was a challenging defense to go against, but if you look at it in perspective, going on the road to Notre Dame, going on the road to Indiana, both of those top-tier defenses in the FBS, in my opinion, if you look at that in perspective, 1-2 is not too bad, especially with the way the Cardinals played at Notre Dame. So that makes today's response that much more important.
And you talk about that Notre Dame game and then the IU game. The Cardinals just look like two completely different teams. And Jack, it begs the question, who is this Ball State team?
I think this is a much improved defensive team that's still trying to find its rhythm offensively. Riley Neal, 50% over the last 2 games. That needs to improve. They haven't had as many sustained drives as Mike New and the offense would like. But I think with the talent they have on the outside, if they exploit that more this game, then they'll be fine. But they just have to get the ball to their weapons and let them run.
They didn't take shots down the field last week. That was the big one. They had a short dump-off pass to Malik Dunner that went for about 30 yards. But outside of that, you didn't see Justin Hall getting involved. He had 1 catch for 6 yards. I mean, that's your playmaker, your big-time guy. You've got to be able to find him. The running game, it was consistent, but it wasn't what we were used to seeing. We know that they're capable of much more, and especially splitting up their weapons and using them in a variety of ways. Look for that to change, and look for Malik Dunner to be involved a little bit more, as well as Caleb Huntley.
Ball State offensively, 3 turnovers between the last 2 weeks, and it's been a bigger problem of Ball State converting in the red zone more than anything.
they just can't finish drives. It's like they get down there, and then they're forced to kick a field goal, and then you put a lot of pressure on Morgan Hagee's leg. If it's a little bit out of his zone, we've seen him miss. And so it's just there's a small gray area from about the 45-yard line to the 35 where it's clearly out of Hagee's range that Coach Dew is going to have to make some decisions in those clutch times of whether he's going to be willing to go for it and put the ball in Riley Neal's hands and let him make a play.
And on the other end, the Ball State defense looked phenomenal against Notre Dame last week. Kind of a hiccup, to say the least, for Ball State. Jack, what has to change?
Well, I think they need to prevent the big play. IU was able to move the ball down the field with the RPO, specifically run-pass option with Peyton Ramsey, so they carved them apart. They also screen passed the Cardinals to death. I think they watched the tape from Notre Dame, and they were able to exploit the weaknesses that they did see, even though there weren't too many. So Ball State's defense is one that relies on the big play. They need to force turnovers and then clean up some of those mistakes, giving up the big plays and maybe pressuring a little bit more on the outside on those screen passes, and they'll be just fine. But the linebackers, they've been consistently solid. It's up to everyone else around them, the defensive line, the rest of that front seven, and also the secondary to pick it up.
And it also comes down to that third unit, the special teams unit. I mean, allowed that real close slip up from Malik Dunner on the opening kick at Notre Dame where he almost downs it for a touchback safety immediately, and then the Jayshun Harris punt return. A punt was blocked last week. It's those small things that can completely change a game, and Ball State has to do a better job of managing that and using it to their advantage instead of shooting themselves in the foot.
And Ball State looked like the hottest team across the country in Week 1 against Central Connecticut State. They've been completely different the last 3 weeks, which leads us to our new segment, Not to Overreact, but Alex, what has you overreacting this week?
Not to overreact, but the Ball State linebacking core is legit. It's a strong unit. It's deep. Jacob White and Jalen Thomas head that core, both with over 20 tackles on the season. Near double-digit tackles against Notre Dame. They're pressuring the quarterback. They're getting in the backfield for tackles for loss. And then they're deep. You move to the second unit in Brandon Martin and Jeremiah Jackson, and they're bringing consistent play as well. That middle linebacking core has really anchored this defense, and if they're going to find success defensively, it's going to come from them.
I think the switch from the 4-3 to the 3-4 this season under David Elson in his second year has really benefited the Cardinals. It's allowed the linebackers to read the rushing attack from the opposing team and fill those gaps and stuff it right away. And they're also able to drop back into coverage and cover the receivers and get some interceptions too. So that switch, I think, has really benefited the linebacker specifically.
And it's just helped with David Elson getting his second year under his belt, and this defense just becoming accustomed to that. Looked a little bit different last week with the way they played against IU, which brings me to my point, not to overreact, but that IU game's a fluke, and you just have to throw it out the window.
I tend to agree with you. I think that IU came in with a solid game plan, and they were just a better team on that day. But I don't know if overall, if that game's played 10 times, who wins it? You know, you break it down like that. But Ball State, 4 first downs were lost to penalties defensively. You're just hurting yourself in those moments. It's tough to win a game when you turn the ball over, you give up big special teams plays, and then you kill yourself with penalties. It's things that can be cleaned up by Ball State within practice, and things that I expect to be cleaned up and especially see develop over the next few weeks.
And the penalty thing is weird because Ball State is normally one of the top 10 teams in the country consistently under Mike New at not being penalized. So I think they clean that up this week. Mike New's established that's a part of his team, that they will not be penalized. So I think in that respect, last week was a fluke against IU. Ball State's more talented this year. They're deeper. I think they have more players on the outside that can make explosive plays. I think they're also a tougher team, and they can show that this week if they respond well. And I think because they're a tougher team and because this is a huge response game, this game, everything that Ball State's been working for, postseason aspirations, relies on this game right here. Their postseason hopes hinge against Western Kentucky today. And not to overreact, but that's what I'm going with, because going 4-4 in the Mid-American Conference is reasonable. 5-3, just a little bit tougher. And with a league that's so equal, so difficult to navigate, as we've seen from Ball State over the last 2 years, this game extremely important.
I tend to agree with you. It's a great way to end the non-conference, an opponent that you can beat, that is relatively on an equal playing field, and a team that you've seen before. I mean, that's last season. The Western Kentucky game is when things kind of came unglued, and you saw it throughout MAC play. But it's a great way to not only build confidence, but just test some things out before you get into MAC play, and the level of play is completely heightened. It goes to a new level, and that's why you have to take advantage of this game, not to mention, like Jack said, 5-3 in the Mid-American Conference. There's some good teams out there, and we still are just not not 100% sure who this team is. We're still learning that, so I think that coming with that, this is a very important game.
And I think most importantly for Ball State, most people would have thought they were going to be 2-2 heading into Mid-American Conference play. So it's just take what you can get today as an offense, as a defense, and see what happens. It should be a great crowd here at Ball State on family weekend. And obviously it's important to us up here, but very important to the running back group as well as Coach New and our Sports Link crew. Caught up with some of them to talk about what family weekend means to them.
Family really means a lot to me. Just being close to home whenever I need them. My mom will come up every week almost, want to do my laundry or clean my house. It's going to be nice seeing them all there.
I know when it's all said and done, I know they're going to be the ones that got my back and I got theirs. So family was a big thing for me and it's a big thing with this program. So Coach New emphasized that a lot.
Outside of this building, that's your support system. They've been there for me when there's been great days. They've been there for me when there's been some challenging days. And I know that one thing will always remain the same, that my family will be there with me through thick and thin.
This weekend for me, is big. Definitely big to be able to play in front of them. With me being the first in the family to do it, go to college, get a scholarship. I just really pride myself on, being able to, hopefully do something for them one day and, show my cousins and my little brother the ropes and show him, how things need to be done in life. And my family is my rock. That's who I look to. That's who I do it for. And that's what I'm going to continue to do it for.
Family weekend, a fun atmosphere as always. And we now welcome on former Ball State offensive lineman Vinny Palizzetti. And
hey,
Vinny,
guys.
what has family weekend meant to you when you played on the field?
Well, it's amazing, this atmosphere. You have everybody here. You have the compassion, the family atmosphere. There's really nothing like it, and you think, college football, it's you're just here to have fun, but when the families come, it brings an extra level to it that you don't normally have.
And we want to go back to last year. So as you're getting into it, we've had a lot of questions about this team. Sitting in the heart and soul of it, what did you learn the most about this team throughout the season last year?
It's kind of hard to say. What you learn about a team is that every week is a different week. You have the Notre Dame game that happened earlier this year, and then you have the IU game, right? You have basically what looks like two completely different teams that come out to play on a Saturday. And what you really need is to have a consistent, play every down. What really it comes down to is every single down you need to play consistently. You can come out against Notre Dame, number 8 team in the country at the time, and play great and compete with that team, and then you can come against IU and then play not so well. You need to be consistent every single down, and you'll have a good game. And then you translate that into the season, you have a good season.
And you talk about consistency. Your look here at Ball State was pretty consistent with the long hair. You've gone and cut the hair now.
It's a bit different.
Yeah, it's just a little different.
Yes.
As, we can take a look here.
Oh,
One of the classic moments, I think.
Oh, man.
Look at this beautiful hair flip, Vinny.
It's like a mane.
Yeah, well, that was actually 7.5 years in the making. So I actually didn't have a single haircut for 7.5 years.
So when it came time and you decided, was that a tough decision?
Actually, it wasn't that tough. I was looking forward to it being gone. I was very tired of waking up, taking a shower, and my hair not being dry until 2 p.m. Right? So that was a bit of an annoying feature of the long hair. It did look great coming out the end of a helmet, though. So I think that's why it played its part during my college football career.
It has the aesthetic to it a little bit.
A great aesthetic. I was very identifiable from the sideline, which many people told me, which is nice.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So the team this year has been really come to be known by those running backs, that trio of running backs in Caleb Huntley, James Gilbert, and Malik Dunner. As someone who was in the trenches blocking for them, give us some insight as to who those kind of backs are and what it's like to be in front of them, guiding the way.
I mean, they're really just incredible individuals. You talk about them as a running back core, and I think they get kind of lost in their individuality and how different their game is. From Malik Dunner, one of the fastest guys playing college football right now. Caleb Huntley, one of the biggest, most versatile runners, and James Gilbert right in the middle. It's such an athlete when he runs the ball, when he catches the ball. I'm really focused. I'm a bit partial. I'm focused on the offensive line. Is how well do they play, translate to how well the running backs play. I'm really looking at Kyle DeVan, see how well he's got these guys prepared. I know he will. He's a great offensive line coach. And I think these guys have a solid offensive line this year with a lot of experience that they'll take to the field, and they got to just perform, and I think they'll do well.
Which that's one of the positions, offensive line. I feel like you kind of have to play it to truly understand all that goes into it, because the common fan is just completely misconstrued as to what goes on there. So from your viewpoint, this team right now, a new line, some new faces on it, and we're starting to see some of those injuries pile up again. What has been your impression of the offensive line so far?
So a lot of people think that you have a new offensive line. A lot of times you have a new offensive line every year. You have changes around, people move different positions. But what people don't realize is during the season you get reps every day during practice, right? So these guys who are quote unquote new, right? They haven't had experience quite yet. They've had hundreds, maybe even thousands of reps during practice. And I don't think, any of these guys that Kyle Devan is going to put on the stage during game day aren't the best guys possible. They're going to, perform for the entire team. And I think they're just going to come ready to play as, all guys on Mike New's team do.
What is your biggest reflection? You've had some time to sit back now and away from football a little bit. What was your biggest reflection about your time at BSU? What do you take away the most from their time as a football player?
Wow, what an incredible question. What do I take away from my college experience? Well, I love Ball State. I can't say enough about it. The funny thing is I had no idea Ball State even existed before high school. So they were my first offer out of high school. I had no plans on coming to visit. My mom said, they offered you a scholarship, you're going to come visit. And I decided, all right, well, what mom says goes. I came and visited, fell in love with the campus, fell in love with the coaches. I mean, I couldn't have made a better decision coming here. I don't regret it any day that I wake up.
Vinny, thank you very much for joining us.
No
We
problem,
really
Jarin,
appreciate
Alex.
it.
Thank you very
and
much.
One of the running backs who we didn't block for last year, but who's been highlighted in this RBU pack is Will Jones. Here's a look at what this running back did before he came to Ball State.
Watching Will Jones in practice today.
Yeah.
Impressed on the blocking end. What do you guys see from him?
He has had a great camp. I mean, I really mean that. As a walk-on player last year, just getting his feet wet, no different than any other freshman. So go! Good, eyes. Make him run up! Nice job, good job, Red.
I know that we have the 4 running backs. They're super dominant. For me this year, I've really channeled, I got to be a good scout player, and I just got to know my role, and I've taken that with a whole heart and just really tried to grind out there and just make my teammates better.
Go! Make him run the house! Good, nice, good. Win. Hey, you don't have to, we don't have to go crush ourselves, right? Make contact and move with that. Make contact. The one thing about him is he's a lot better athlete than you think, number one. And number 2, he just plays really hard. Good, Will. Keep the ball. Good.
I go hard every day in Scout O. It's my favorite thing. I just know that I got to do that for my team and keep doing it to make us better.
He put the work in last year all the way till now, and he's found the role on special teams. So it just goes to show that if you put the time and effort, you'll be on the field making plays for the team and just knowing your role.
Coming in my senior year of football, broke my collarbone. Said I was going to be out for 8 to 12 weeks, and I healed up in 6 and got out there, and I think I finished with 1,300 yards. I made the most of it. Basketball, I've always loved too. I was never really a scorer on basketball. I was more of a defender. I probably averaged 4 steals a game. Probably my 8th grade year, I kind of chose football, but I still focused on basketball. We won state championship. My whole dream has been to play Division I football. I wasn't highly recruited at all. I finally got in contact with Coach Lynch, and they offered me a preferred walk-on, so that was a dream come true. And then ever since then, I just got to work my way up.
Too far behind the line. Still play well. You know what I mean? Hey, get to that angle. You're way behind the line. You know what I'm saying?
I take it in every day when I come to practice. It really means a lot to me because you never know when your time could be up playing this game.
Will Jones, another important piece of this running back group for Ball State, especially on the scout team. But the 3 we continue to talk about here, James Gilbert, Malik Dunner, and Caleb Huntley, how can they continue to impact this Ball State team?
Well, specifically Huntley and Dunner kind of went quiet in the IU game. Huntley, only 2 carries, less than 10 yards. Meanwhile, Malik Dunner, 4 carries and 1 reception. He is the versatile back, and if they're going to really ride with him pushing him to run the ball and catch it out of the backfield. They've got to do a better job of feeding it to him. IU defended it well. Credit goes to them. But at the same time, Ball State has to think of new ways to get all those guys involved. Gilbert had a solid game. 89 rushing yards and a touchdown. You got to be happy with that. But the reality is this is a trio of backs that have to carry the load. And if they don't split it up, it's not quite enough.
Over 200 yards for Ball State against IU, but that number a little bit skewed because of a big run from Riley Neal. He's a good running quarterback himself, and also a few chunk plays from James Gilbert. You mentioned the 89 yards, Alex. Ball State's 30th in the nation in rushing offense at 230 yards per game. So Ball State's running the ball with the 3 backs you see on your screen here. The thing is, they need to pass as well. They cannot become one-dimensional. You can't put it all on James Gilbert, Malik Dunner, and Caleb Huntley. You want to utilize them equally. I think that's the best term. But when Ball State's struggling, they go to James Gilbert because he is the best back. He had the most carries against IU. He had the most carries against Notre Dame when Ball State was looking for offense. So I think they just need to develop more of a passing game as they move throughout the conference season. Again, 2 very good defenses they're going against in Notre Dame and IU. These guys can't carry the load. I expect more carries from Caleb Huntley today. Only 2 against IU. Expect him to have at least more attempts today.
I'd agree with you. Gilbert's the guy that's going to get the ball. He is the main back. But these other 2 are supposed to be complementary pieces, and they really haven't been that in the last couple of weeks. It's just been slow, and they haven't really brought that pop that we're used to them seeing that they bring to the lineup. So it's something to keep an eye on. I think Gilbert's still going to get his fair share of carries. Huntley and Dunner out of the backfield working them in. The big problem was that Huntley dropped balls out of the backfield, and when you do that, you lose some of that trust to go to you and call those kind of plays. So you got to see him rebound. This is a great team to do it against. Western Kentucky, they're not great against the run. It's time for Ball State to take advantage of that and show what they can do.
And my guess is Caleb Huntley will see more carries today. He's been dealing with some flu-like symptoms over the first 2 to 3 weeks, so just getting him back and involved should be important for Ball State offensively. And then getting Dunner to do something besides just catch balls out of the backfield. He's very dynamic. He's very explosive in that, but can you get him going in the ground game as well?
Some of the offense that we saw against Central Connecticut went away in the last 2 weeks, and that offense was high-powered and dynamic. We've seen them slowly shift away from it the last 2 weeks. Need to pick it back up here at the shoe.
And something that Dunner has improved upon this year is running between the tackles. He hasn't gotten too many attempts, but and everybody knows he's a gadget guy. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. They can split him out into the slot. But I think he has gotten better in between the tackles, and we've seen that at times this year over the first 3 games against all 3 teams that they've played. So I wouldn't doubt if Malik Dunner gets carries inside and outside, and they really utilize the backs with their strengths all around.
And the running back group obviously has been featured all year long on our new series RBU. Executive producer Connor Nichols. In that, you can catch it every Friday on all of our platforms, especially on Twitter at BSU Sports Link. And now Ball State back in 2012 rather, started out 3-1. They played USF in week 4, and we have AJ in the social studio with that update.
Thanks, Jarin. After a 2-week hiatus, it's great to be back in Muncie again. Let's dive into this week's classical segment. This high-scoring affair between the USF Bulls and the Cards was a critical point as the Cardinals look to move on to 3-1 on the year. The game got off to a slow start early in the first quarter, but Juwan Edwards found the end zone to bust the game open and give the Cardinals a 10-3 lead. USF scored late in the second quarter, and they missed the PAT, but the Cardinals still had the momentum going into the half thanks to the heroics of quarterback Keith Wenning. Wenning would find the end zone early in the third quarter to give the Cardinals an 8-point lead. After USF scored a field goal, Wenning again led the Cards thanks to this beautiful touchdown pass to Jameel Smith to give the Cardinals a 14-point lead. USF responded with their own drive to draw within 5 going into the final quarter on this busted play. Late in the fourth quarter, USF found another busted coverage and took the lead with 4:12 remaining, setting up an opportunity for Willie Snead, the Cardinals' shining star and player who made 10 receptions all game, to have an opportunity for his one shining moment. Let's go ahead and listen to the call.
Wenning steps up, throws the deep ball for Snead. Did he get it? Oh my, what a catch by Willie!
That toe drag swag by Willie Snead solidified the Cardinals' win and gave them a 31-27 victory over the Bulls, which moved them to 3-1 on the season and helped propel them to a great year. Jarin, I hope you're on your toes because I'm sending it back to you.
Does AJ want me to stand up or something on set here? I mean, I know I'm the small one of the group, but come on.
I'm just happy to be on set. You guys kicked me off for Vinny.
Sorry, man. You didn't make the cut.
The real talent here was Vinny Palizzetti.
That's right. That's right. I don't blame you.
All right, let's move into Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers last weekend playing against the University of Louisville looked a lot more impressive than they did the week before.
They certainly did. Got off to that 14-3 start against Louisville. It ended in devastating defeat, 20-17, but they found a new quarterback in Davis Shanley. Drew Eccles was injured the week before, so head coach Mike Sanford came into the week knowing that he wanted to play both his quarterbacks, gave his other quarterback a chance, gave him 2 drives, 3 for 5 and an interception. Throws in Davis Shanley. Shanley goes for over 300 yards, scores a touchdown on his first drive, and really did not look back after that. Now, granted, it was a tough loss for Western Kentucky, and there's a lot to learn from that, but Western Kentucky has found their new quarterback in Davis Shanley, and I think for the first time this week, he's truly going to be shown to the world.
Shanley can run, too. Keep that in mind. He is a dual threat option, and Ball State's defense will have to be on its toes. But Western Kentucky giving up 14 points in the fourth quarter. Really just a tough loss all around. Still they still are winless, 0-3 now. So second game in a row that they've had a chance to tie it with a field goal in the final moments, and they haven't gotten it done. Maine, they go up 21-0 in the first 5 minutes of the game. And then Maine comes all the way back, wins it 31-28. Game-tying field goal is blocked, and then against Louisville, this last game you see on your screen right here, the game-tying field goal just sails wide. It was from 50 yards out, but still, field goal troubles for Western Kentucky thus far, 2 for 5 on the season. Playing with backup quarterbacks, Drew Eccles goes out, but you're right, Alex. I think they found a good one in Davis Shanley.
Western Kentucky 0-3 on the year, falling to Louisville 20-17, and Mike knows this is an important game for Ball State. We caught up with him earlier this week.
Number one, we look back at last year, some of the players that were on that team a year ago for Western Kentucky, which ones are still there now, which ones did they lose to graduation, and so you make sure personnel-wise that you feel good about knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are personnel-wise, and what are the scheme things that we were able to do a year ago that are good to have in the game plan again this year, what things do we need to tweak, change. But that's always good when you have an opponent that, even though it's a non-conference game, we play them with a home and home, last year and this year. So we've got good tape to evaluate from last year in addition to the first 3 games from this year. Last week we had a few challenges, not what we wanted, but challenging our guys that every week is a new week. Come back. This is the last game for non-conference. Let's play well. Let's get back to doing what we do. Let's make sure that we all know that last week wasn't who Ball State is for 2018. So we got to get back to playing good quality football, not have some of the errors and mistakes that we had to show up a week ago.
And head coach Mike New knows how important this week is for Ball State. As we now welcome on brand new athletic director Beth Getz. Just thank you for joining us in the first place, taking time out of your day to come on here with us.
Oh, absolutely. Excited to be here with you all and to be a part of the great work that you guys do each and every day.
We certainly appreciate it, and it's a big weekend, family weekend. What does that provide for the university?
Well, that's one of the great things about sports is just the way that it brings people together. And certainly we talk about, football being a family, volleyball being a family, but we're a Ball State family, so it's wonderful to see so many people out here visiting their students and coming back and alums, and it's just a great atmosphere.
And you talk about Ball State. You've been here for 3 months only, but what separates this Cardinal family from the rest of people across the country?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can tell you it's just the sense of community you get the second you step on campus. I mean, everyone is so welcoming. There's a true collaboration across campus, different units, and it's a wonderful place to be. I feel really lucky to have joined the team.
And just the second week here, getting the Schumann Stadium game day experience, what have been your impressions so far?
Well, the stadium is beautiful. They've just done a great job with that, and it can be a great place to play a football game, and I know that's going to be the case today.
Specifically football, first 3 weeks, 1 and 2, but what has it meant to the program as a whole to go and play those big schools like Notre Dame and IU?
Yeah, I think that it's a source of pride for student athletes to get a chance to compete against some of the Power 5 institutions, but I think even more special in this case was doing it against other institutions in our state. So the chance to play at Notre Dame was tremendous for our guys, and also, though, for alums and all of our fans that were up there. It was a great experience. No doubt they're going to be talking about that, long after they're gone. But those games are really important, and great tests of where we are, but also a great experience to compete against some of the best.
And we've got another exciting weekend coming up soon, homecoming weekend, always a big time here. What are you looking forward to most about that weekend?
Well, like I said, one of the things that's just so special about being in athletics is the way that it unites people and the ability to bring people together and get people back on campus. And, you know, we all talk about college, and when you make that choice of being a 4-year decision, and it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. It's going to impact you, and that's your family. The day you step on campus, and it's going to be the family, your family for the rest of your life. So it's a wonderful time to have everybody back visiting.
And obviously from our perspective, you're taking time now to join us on this out of your busy schedule. So what can we do as a program to kind of help shape the athletic department as a whole?
Well, I think it's just the continuous support and in the things that you all do to help us share our message, the great things we do on the field, but also off the field. I mean, we're doing wonderful things in the community, great things in the classroom, and we've got a lot of success stories, and we're just a small piece of what's happening on campus. We're excited to have the platform in which to let people know what's going on here.
And you're anticipating a Cardinal victory today, I'm sure?
Oh, we definitely are. I know the guys have worked hard. I think we learned a lot from the game at IU, and they've responded well this week at practice, and I think we're going to be excited when that final whistle blows.
Our thanks to Athletic Director Beth Getz. We appreciate you coming on here as always. Seriously, like, this means so much to us as a group. For you
Happy
to
do
join
it anytime. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
As now we look back at last year, Ball State and Western Kentucky, a close one down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where the Cardinals looked like they had a chance to win that game, competed throughout the entirety of the contest. Malik Dunner was very impactful for the Ball State team, but the Cardinals, in the end, could not come up victorious. They fall 33-21 to Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers took that victory and then went on and made a bowl game last season. Ball State today looks to improve to 2-2 overall as they play Western Kentucky at home. The Hilltoppers in Muncie for the first time in almost 10 years. That'll do it for us on Ball State Sports Link pregame, the pregame show here from Schumann Stadium. For Jack Kizer and Alex Thomas, as well as Vinny Palazzetti and Beth Getz, I'm Jarin Matheny. We'd like to thank our producer, Erinn Casey, as well as our technical director, Jared Frank, and the rest of our SL Game Day crew. Once again, Ball State and Western Kentucky coming up next on SL Digital. You can tune in on Mixler.com/BSU Sports Link to catch all of that action. We'll be back post-game as well for Game Day, post-game wrapping up what happened on today. We'll have Adrian Jardine Jonas and potentially other players. Once again, SL Digital, your destination. Alex Thomas and Jack Kizer for the whole game. Follow us at BSU Sports Link. This has been a presentation of Ball State Sports Link.